So, hi Deborah, how are you doing?
Hi, Ritu. Fine, and you?
I'm also good. I'm so curious to know something about you. What do you do and where are you from?
Okay, so I'll start where I am from. I'm originally from South Africa, um, from a city called Johannesburg, and I currently am actually in China, and I work for a telecommunications company. My job involves contracts and customers.
Oh, wow, that sounds great. And I would be asking a few questions regarding English because, as you know, that English, of course, is a global language and people are gravitated towards this language. So, I would just like from you to know that, according to you, what is the biggest mistake non-native English speakers they make that affects their confidence level? So, what's your take on that?
I think for me, because I work in a multicultural environment, and that means I speak to many people whose first language isn't English, whose second language isn't English, whose fourth, fifth, sixth language isn't even English. Um, and many of them often are either too embarrassed to speak or are are almost afraid to say or to make mistakes. And that for me is really sad because whilst I speak English, I'm bilingual. So I grew up speaking two languages at the same time. And for me, when I cannot express myself in one language, I'll try and express myself in another language. And most people that don't have English as a first language or that are non-native speakers often feel like, well, I don't know what the word is. I don't know if I'm expressing myself correctly. When in fact, I am a first language English speaker and I struggle at times to think of the words, think of the descriptions. So, what I'll then do is I'll talk around it, because yesterday, what was the word that I couldn't get yesterday? Yesterday it was doorstop, of all words, doorstop. Really, really simple. It's a piece of wood or plastic that you stick in the door to stop it from opening and closing. The word went gone. And I'm trying to explain to a friend of mine that I had stubbed my toe on a doorstep or a doorstop. Um, and his first language English too. Funniest thing. And the story and the description became that much more memorable and also more interesting because I couldn't remember the word for it, but I could remember the descriptors around it. And that's often what I tell the people in my office, especially when there are fresh graduates joining. Don't worry if you don't know the word. Describe to me around it because then I have a better idea of what you're thinking. Trying to give me fancy words doesn't tell me anything about whether I'll understand what you mean or whether you'll actually understand what you're trying to tell me.
Right, right. And I think that people are also stressing themselves too much. And I believe that we must take the process in a very natural and happy way so that we can understand not only this language, but we can also speak this language the way we want. So it takes time, but it's not a big deal. And people are making a lot of deal out of this. This is, I think, it's a personal problem. People are overthinking a lot. And that was the real issue. What do you think about it? Do really people overthink a lot? What if they look stupid? What if they look fools? Or what if they commit a lot of mistakes? Do you really feel like that?
I agree. Many people think that they have to be perfect, especially when it
Mm.
comes to language, when they're speaking. But I'm a first language English speaker. I'm not perfect. I learn new words, new phrases every single day. I learn the context of things every single day. But I wasn't born speaking English like I do now. I had to learn words. I had to make mistakes. And it's with any skill that then becomes second nature. Walking, riding a bicycle, using chopsticks, braiding hair. These are skills we learn, and we only gain proficiency through practice and mistake. And it's when we get to the mistake, acknowledging that, oops, right, I'm learning something. And it doesn't matter if you make the mistake a second or a third time, you're learning each time. And that's the point. Language is not supposed to be rigid, it's supposed to be expressive, it's supposed to be imperfect. We're not English professors, we're everyday people. So, use the language in the way that makes you feel most comfortable. And the more comfort you gain in using it, the more confidence you'll have in using it.
Rightly said. Well said. And most often, I have also noticed this that many a times people want to learn this language overnight. And I usually believe that Rome was not built in a day. Everything takes time. As you have mentioned earlier, that consistency is the key to success. So we need to be consistent. Like every normal skill, we need to make it, I mean, as perfect as we can. But ultimately, we are human beings, so we are tend to commit mistakes, and it's not a big deal. So we should tackle everything with a plan, with a strategy, and we also can learn English. So it's not a rocket science. After all, it's just a language. And Rivra, I just want to ask you a very simple question with most of the people they confuse themselves by thinking this kind of things. That do native speakers care more about grammar, pronunciation, or confidence? What's the secret?
Definitely confident. Definitely confident. Um, Grammar changes depending on the situation you're in. My my sentence structure, my grammar, the formality I use is different depending on my friend group, or if I'm addressing a family member, or if I am in a boardroom for a meeting. So, that one changes depending on the situation. Grammar never ever has to be perfect. It doesn't. And we need to stop beating ourselves up about the fact that it has to be perfect. Being confident in how we speak, even when we know we're making mistakes, allows us to gain in confidence because we're learning as we do that. And also the perfect words. No, 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 no. We don't need the perfect words. As long as we can find words to explain something that others can understand, finding that one perfect word, it's neither here nor there. Um, Being able to express ourselves with joy and with enthusiasm will often go a long way. That perfection is never ever going to get us.
Right. And to stay ahead of the curve, most of the people they think that they need to learn fancy vocabulary. They need to incorporate, compressive structures in their daily conversation. Only then they will be considered perfect. So, how much truth is there in reality? What's your opinion about it?
Honestly, unless you are negotiating contracts in English, you don't need the fancy word.
Wow.
Um, you really, really don't. And I mean, even I negotiate contracts in English and I don't use the fancy, fancy word. I need to be able to express myself clearly in a simple way that everybody, regardless of their level of English, is able to understand. And that's what everybody who's learning a language always forgets. And I mean, I'm also now trying to learn a third language. And the thing that trips me up every time is, do I want perfection or do I want communication? Because if I want perfection, I'm never ever going to be able to communicate. If I want
Right.
communication, then I've just got to mumble and fumble and laugh at myself the way through learning this new language. Because it's only through practice and speaking that I'm going to be able to learn the language so that it's less of me holding a book going, right, that person's just said this. I need to say which line now? Because language should be intrinsic. It shouldn't be that I need to take what you've said, run it through my internal software into my first language, then think of the sentence in my first language and then retranslate it so that it comes out of my mouth in English. The whole idea behind learning a language is that you keep it simple so that there's not this constant relay round and about and then out again, because you then miss half of what has been said in the conversation. And keeping things simple, keeping things easy to understand helps you practice, helps you be engaged and also be engaging. Because the simpler and clearer your ideas and sentences are, the more likely people are to talk back to you and listen to what you have to say.
I've also read somewhere that if you want to be an efficient public speaker or a communicator, then we should work not on perfection, but on expression. Like many learners, they are delving deep into this strategy by learning so many idioms, so many phrases, and so many complex words. They actually forget the meaning. They don't know the meaning of that word, but they want to use it. So it's quite satirical. And I always advocate the policy of be simple and be expressive.
Beating yourself up more than anything. You're learning a new language, for goodness sakes. You're rewiring your brain. And some days you're going to be angry. Some days you're going to be frustrated, but just carry on going. Um, don't be mad at yourself for making mistakes. Be proud of yourself.
Something new. So, Deborah, this is just the end of our quick session, and I enjoyed each and every fraction of the second. And I also want you to let me know about this session. How did you feel about this session?
It's been absolutely lovely talking to you. And I really hope that any of your students that see this take heart in the fact that they are learning. They are showing a willingness to learn. They are streets ahead of anybody else.